But to really make a strong mitre joint, you need a spline. And this is the splined mitre joint. You can tell it's got a decent spline in it. Now I used a contrasting timber because I wanted to make a feature out of it. If you wanted to make it look as if it was a mortise and tenon or a bridle mitre joint, you would use the same timber and orientate the grain accordingly. But I wanted this to be a bit of a feature, so I used a red timber. But back to the bandsaw. This is how you do a splined mitre joint. The splined mitre joint, as I said before, check out the video on how to do a through tenon, and you divide both ends up identically. Divide them into three. Now the difference between this and the through mortise and tenon joint is in the through mortise and tenon joint, one of these gets cleared out for the mortise and the other remains as a tenon. But with the mitered spline joint, we cut two mortises out of this bit of stock here. So divide it into three, set your blade up, and then whatever you cut this side, flip your piece over and cut the other side and do the same to the second bit. That way the mortises should be identical on both pieces. Turn it over. Take the board away. Now we'll just clear a lot of this waste out. Those last two little pieces I'll clean out with a chisel. If I had a really small blade, an 1/8 inch blade, I could try and clean it with the blade, but quite frankly, it's easy enough to do with a chisel. Now they've been cleaned out, measure the gap of the mortise in here, and then set your fence or the blade to whatever that gap is. Get a different piece of stock, all the same if you want. I like doing something different because it's a contrast, but make sure it's a little bit wider than the stock you're using and definitely longer. And just mark off a little bit longer than you need and resaw it with that setting that you just set on your bandsaw, which is the width of this mortise here. And cut it like so. Get your saw box back again, or your box guide. Now trim off the excess, that's the waste side. That will cut it right through. So that bit's waste, this piece we're keeping, and this piece will fit quite snugly in here. Now to make it into the mitered joint, we just turn this around to 45 degrees. Just double check to make sure it's accurate. And simply cut from this corner through to here. And the same with the other one. So once you've got that bit, put it into one of the pieces that you've sawn. Get the other piece and it just slides in there and locks and gives you a very, very strong miter joint. A lot stronger than the keyed miter joint we did previously. Personally, I would shoot these on a shooting board or just run a block plane over them to get rid of any saw marks that may be there. But that's personal choice. There it is, splined mitre joint, done on the bandsaw. And that's it for the mitre joints. From the very basic, which isn't very strong, to an intermediate, to an extremely strong joint, which has got the spline in it. The next two I'm going to do are specialty joints, and they're coming up next.